r/AskReddit. What is a story that you want to tell but can't find the right AskReddit? I had a pet chicken that would casually have what seemed to be sexual relationships with pigeons. A squirrel gave me an acorn. Birds have shit on my pizzas twice. I have an elderly neighbor who lives upstairs. I don't know his name, so I'm going to call him Fred for the sake of this story. Fred is a strange individual. He plays piano at 3 in the morning. He just glares at you if you say something to him. He doesn't speak to anyone really. I've only seen him interacting with a human once, when he was yelling at a salesman. I don't know who Fred is, because he is my only neighbor with an unmarked mailbox. Based on Fred's observable behavior, I would definitely label him as a recluse. About a month ago I got home, pulled into my parking lot and turned off my car. I heard something that sounded like a gunshot, so I waited in my car for a bit, then finally decided to venture out into the unknown. I saw Fred crouched beside one of my neighbor's cars with something in his hand. I noticed the vehicle's tire had been slashed. As I walked past, I asked Fred if his tire got popped. He just stared at me with an eerie emotionless glare, the kind of glare that makes you feel like he's looking straight through you, so I promptly started walking towards my door. Before I went inside, I looked back and saw that he had been holding a knife. This past weekend, Fred decided to slash another tire for a reason unbeknownst to me, but this time Fred's tire victim saw it happen and confronted him about it. Fred and the man broke out in a heated argument and Fred threatened to shoot his victim. The man went inside and immediately called the police. A little bit later the police showed up and knocked on Fred's door. Fred walked out of his door, saw that there were police officers, apparently felt like he was trapped, so he proceeded to quickly pull out a gun and blow his own brains out in front of the police. When I was like 7, I was making a cake. From the other room, I saw my chubby lil cat sitting on the couch. I heard some quiet murmur from under her butt, and then a Keisha song started playing. It turns out she sat on my iPod and somehow told Siri to play Keisha. I can never find a question that needs this story as an answer. My friends and I were skipping our exam and went to the boys' locker room and decided, as females, that my friend was going to pee in the urinal. As we chanted do it, do it, do it, this teacher, who was later fired for impregnating a student, walks in and just awkwardly screams sorry and leaves. My cousin used to play in the NFL. One game, he gave us family passes so we could meet up with him in the player's family tent after the game. Watched the game, went down there, and I had to pee. I remember I had passed a security guard when we arrived in the area and went back to that spot to see if they could tell me where a bathroom was because I couldn't find anyone else that worked there. The security guard was nowhere to be found and I really had to pee, so I followed a long hallway back, and the only thing at the end of the hallway was a set of giant double doors. I opened one and started walking into the locker room. Looked up, saw some of the players changing, 1 or 2 in towels, and definitely a couple with everything hanging out. I'm just this little 5 feet 2 inches female that wasn't even wearing a jersey from their team. I had a Pro Bowl jersey on of a player from a different team, and I walked right on into an NFL locker room like it was my business to be in there, and then I walked right on out. Never told my cousin and never told anyone in my family. Was definitely super embarrassed at the time. Now it's just funny. Suru, one day me and my dad were driving home from a car show. We liked going to M a while ago, and we were in his Challenger and on the highway we were going about 90/100 mph, and of course we get pulled over and the officer asks my dad for his license and my dad gives it to him, but suddenly I just see a black Lambo looking car fucking zoom by, and then the cop looks at my dad and hands him his license back and says have a nice night and fucking zooms after that guy. I work at a lumber outlet. My second day on the job, my boss calls me over to introduce me to someone. At first, I thought it was a new employee, so I said welcome to the team, then I realized my mistake. We laughed and started chatting. This man started telling us about different cultures and how most people would consider LA to be overcrowded, but have never been to India, so their frame of reference is skewed. Then he started talking about eating crickets for protein and how he hates the beef industry. Then he took off in his Tesla, which had a towing hitch attached to it. I mentioned to my boss how cool it was to see a Tesla with a towing ball on it, and he said, "Do you realize who that was?" I said no. and he proceeded to tell me that this guy was Brian Thompson, a man who acted in movies with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and most importantly to me, played Buffalo Bill in Joe Dirt. It was the happiest day of my life. An accomplished actor came to our humble lumber yard, and I mistook him for a new employee. Sure lol. My freshman year of university we had an IM football team and we were straight trash. I'm talking blown out every game without scoring a single point all year trash. Anyways, last game of the year we are down like 35 or something points with time dwindling, but somehow the other team had busted coverage that allowed our guy to get down the field and score a TD. Our team went freaking nuts like it was 1999. Guys on the sidelines running on the field, guys hugging like we had won the Super Bowl, guys diving on top of the dude who scored. I'm talking like last second victory in the championship game of an inspirational football movie celebration. Refs were just other students and the other team was pretty chill, so they basically let us finish up our wild celebration and kill like 2 minutes of the running clock celebrating. We ended up losing like 35-7 or whatever, but it was still one of the greatest moments of my freshman year because of how stupid it was. My dad is a firefighter, paramedic, and he teaches CPR and first aid classes. Every time he teaches a CPR FAR class and gets to the section about choking and the Heimlich maneuver, he tells this story about me. When I was a toddler, for some reason I was very prone to choking on my food. IDK if I ate too fast or what, but it was a constant problem. After the third time that my dad had to hold me upside down and hit my back to unblock my airway, the Heimlich equivalent for babies and toddlers, I had figured out how to do it on my own somehow. I was around 2 years old, maybe less. One time my mom ran back into the kitchen where I had been eating in my high chair cause she heard me choking and I was hanging upside down from my feet, forcing myself to cough, and I got the piece of hot dog out on my own and just climbed back into the high chair and kept eating like nothing happened. My parents use it to say I was a smart baby, but I disagree. If I were smart I would have been more careful eating my food. When I was younger, I had a ladybug pillow pet when pillow pets were somehow the rage back then. I was once in the airport waiting for a flight that got delayed and I put my ladybug on top of my suitcase. There was another, much younger kid also at the gate and he took notice of my pillow pet. His mom asked me if I could let him borrow it to play and I gave her the go ahead. The kid was immediately ecstatic and started throwing the ladybug up in the air to catch it. He was overall just having a fun time playing while I watched. My dad and I went to walk around the airport to find a place to eat before boarding call, and when we came back, we found the kid sleeping on the seats while resting his head on the pillow pet. His mom thanked us for letting her son play with my plush, and when we were called to board, she gave back the pillow to me so I could use it for the flight. I hate waiting at the airport and having to deal with the occasional unfriendly traveler. But whenever I go to the airport and have a bad time, I sometimes think about the one kid whose boredom I killed by letting him borrow my pillow pet. I called a person with the same name as me, say Emily, not my real name. Our conversation went. Her, hello, this is Emily. Me, yes. Very long pause. Her, what? Me, oh sorry, hello, my name is Emily too. And then I died inside. Crying makes me so uncomfortable. Doesn't matter who it is. Family, friend, or stranger. Most people's response is to console the crier, but I just want to leave. I feel like an arsehole, but I can't help it. One day I was at school and walked into a bathroom. I'm a middle schooler, but we use the same bathrooms as the elementary kids. I walk in and see this little kid peeing inside a cone. He had the cone upside down so the tip was on the toilet and the bottom he stuck his pee in. I walked in and he had the nerves to say sup dude, so I responded with a sup. It was so hard not to burst of laughter. I was talking to my school's security guard and he asked me a question and I inadvertently asked, are you talking to me? And he confusedly replied yes with a smile, and at that moment I wanted to just excuse myself for the rest of my life as I had forgotten that he's cross-eyed. I felt so bad because he is genuinely a nice guy and I felt like a bitch afterwards. Not so much a story, but an admission. Over the past 4+ months, I've become a severe alcoholic. Every time I have a panicked feeling, or there's a problem, my mind goes to a bottle of white Zinfandel. I'm drunk right now. I'll admit my problem to people, but not the full extent of it. How I hate the feeling of being sober. I'm sorry. Back in elementary, our librarian had a pet snake. Forget what kind, but it was one of the ones that doesn't fuck you up. Yeah, know what I mean? And so the class went to the library to see the stupid snake. She said we could all pet it but we couldn't touch its head. Easy, no problem, right? So everyone's petting the dumb snake and it finally gets to me and I completely forgot what the fuck she said and my dumbass touched that snake's head and she pulled him back and said you lost your touch, and I felt so sick to my stomach. I froze. I was so embarrassed. My teacher was shaking her head. My friends laughed. My crush laughed. Fucking snake probably laughed. I just wanted someone to say it's okay, you Fulton Holmes, but that didn't happen and I'll never forget it. Not much, but it's a small story about how out of touch with reality I am when I wake up. So I have an alarm set on my phone for 11 AM every morning. I also have an old alarm in my room that's like half a minute behind. I woke up one morning and looked at my alarm clock and saw that it was 10:59 and thought to myself, no point in going back to sleep, my alarm is about to go off. My alarm was going off already. That's why I was awake. It took me half a minute to realize this when my alarm hit 11 and I still didn't notice my alarm going off. I hold my husband on a high pedestal. He was able to take me out of a toxic home environment, albeit not in the best way. And his family lovingly took me in right away even though we had just started dating. Due to a series of unfortunate circumstances, he and I separated from the family and rented a room where he started to teach me how to cook and figure out adulting, which included figuring out taxes, explaining credit to me, bills, and the like. And slowly, as our independence grew, so did my ability to learn many things my family neglected to help me with, such as getting my ID, starting my credit, filing my taxes, and much more. It is thanks to my husband, I know how to cook splendidly well, can figure out all the paperwork to everything, and am learning how to drive little by little, and is a massive supporter to my educational needs, and is a good father. We have had our super dark moments where we thought we wouldn't make it, and the greatest days where we have felt on top of the world and exhilarated, and I would never, and I mean never, trade a single day in the world because it has led us to where we are and how we've learned as individuals and as partners. We've grown splendidly alongside each other. We're not completely there, but we're getting through and we are doing the best we can, not only for us, but for our daughter who we decided to bring into this world together and who gave us that extra kick on this path that we're on to do better and get better. And we'll be hitting 4 years together in October and we expect many more years too. A couple of years ago, I was assigned to do a presentation about the Brony community. That was supposed to have happened in an annual gaming convention here in my city. However, that year, the convention was cancelled. Back then, I was very disappointed. Nowadays I'm just glad. The story of getting JJ started way back in 2006 or 2007. Tomo was unquestionably mom's dog. He wouldn't walk if she wasn't there. He would sit and stare at the door for hours waiting for her to come home. I asked mom and dad if I could get a dog for myself, since I realized that it was because mom was the one who took care of Tomo and bonded with him when he was a puppy, that I could raise to be my little buddy. At that point we knew that we would be moving soonish. So the answer I got was that I could get a dog when we moved if I still wanted one. So, once we moved, and spent the first couple months getting things put together, Dad asked me if I still wanted a dog. I hadn't been thinking about getting a dog with everything that had been going on, but I was over the moon about getting the chance. I spent hours looking at a Humane Society website putting together my list. Then we finally went to go look. The plan was to only look, but, well, we can see how that turned out. We looked at a bunch of different dogs, big and small. We were just about to leave and come back another time when Dad pointed JJ out and asked if we should look at this one last dog. He looked so small and scared on his little cot thing. He was shaking like a leaf when we took him out to the little dog area. At first he was huddled up against Dad, but Dad said that if he was gonna be my dog, then I should hold him, so we kinda scooched him over onto my lap and I gave him a hug. He was stiff for a second but then seemed to decide that I was okay and just melted into me. When we took him out front to walk him around, he wouldn't walk on the leash for mom or dad and he stuck right by my side. I definitely wasn't gonna let him spend another night in the cold, scary humane society. At least, not alone. That was probably the first time I ever really put my foot down about something. He was either coming with me, or I was going to stay with him. I remember that he was so scared that he peed on my lap while we were driving home. Which was one of the only 2 times that he had problems with potty training. It must have been a week or 2 that I spent just hanging out with him in the fireplace room. Every day all day because he was just so sick. Once he was finally feeling well enough to move into my room, he would cry because he was in his little kennel thing while I was up on the loft bed. That night was the last time I slept in the loft bed. I got my camping pad out and slept next to his kennel so that he could see that I was there. As soon as we were positive that he was potty trained, I let him sleep on my bed with me. It was then that I learned that he really loved to patrol. He would curl up on my bed for a while, but after about an hour he would get up and go check on everyone else. Then he would go check that everything was alright on the place before coming back to sleep. He died just over a month ago. He had just turned 11. I'm mostly okay now. But it still hurts to think he's gone. Not long ago I helped a couple of random people out, or was just a generally kind person throughout the day. Helped an elderly person get to their train platform. Let a father and his son have the last 2 sausage rolls. Allowed another elderly couple to take the last spot on a tram. Gave up my tram seat on the next tram to a young mother. Helped a disabled person struggling to get to the front of a merch line, much to the frustration of other people trying to push in. Not through any intentional means or for anything else except for being a good person. Finally got back to my hotel room that night, ordered a kebab through Uber Eats and got double meat and small chips for free. I guess it was good karma. I started watching The Dirt, a movie about Mötley Crüe, on Netflix. Halfway through, I text my oldest friend, who was my fellow crew junkie back in junior high, and told her I was watching the movie and it made me think of her. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. She moved 2,000 miles away. She texted me back that she was also watching the same movie at the exact same time. Not only that, but we were at exactly the same spot in the movie. Weirdest coincidence ever, and I hadn't even known this movie existed until my boyfriend told me about it that day. My girlfriend and I started dating at the start of last summer, and she told me that her mum, who was terminally sick with cancer, wanted her to come up before she went back to school in the fall. She was voicing her feelings about not wanting to go because of this and that, and how she would rather spend time with me instead. Well, I jokingly told her that I would buy my own round-trip flight to go visit, and she would be welcome to join me as well if she'd like. She told me that her mom was going through a round of chemo and wouldn't be in the best health to do any activities while we were up there, to which I replied that's okay, she can play board games though, right? Her face lit up after hearing that. We make the flight out to her parents, and I will for always remember the look of pure joy her mom had as she came walking towards us at the front door. She was so happy that her daughter had come home to visit, and I remember hugging what was a very frail frame. I held back my tears, and seeing this all play out in front of me, it meant the world to her that we were all there. The next few days, we saw her health deteriorate. She couldn't even stand up or walk anymore. We ate out dinner once and she needed help walking back to the car. It was mind-numbing to see, as I've never personally seen someone fighting cancer chemo. We got to play board games every night, and that's where we bonded over silly little things. I had brought up a few of my favorite games like Farkle, Codenames, and For Sale, and they loved them all. It was a great time. I remember the final goodbye before we left for the airport. It felt somber leaving. Lots of hugs and farewells were said. Not even 5 days later, her mother had a major stroke and passed away in a coma. It was an absolute shock. After experiencing this, I can assuredly say that her mom was only alive for the sole purpose of seeing her daughter one last time before passing on. I am so unbelievably happy that I pushed for this. To my girlfriend, there is nothing more valuable in the world than the week we spent at her parents' house last summer. Found a booger in my chest hair. It wasn't a booger, it was a larvae. At my new job last month, my coworker was showing me some things, and, in making a simple error, Laughingly said the office manager, "WAA going to kill him." Since he had indicated that he was a gamer and streamed, I said, "Press F to pay respects." He said, "You have no idea how happy you have made me just now." It felt so great, like getting a real life upvote. It was the Mother's Day. The school which my lil bro, 10, goes made a trip to a local mall to buy gifts. A group of kids went in a beauty store with the teacher. My dude says he saw a pretty, colorful box and took it. Later that day, back in school, when the teachers were checking the gifts, they realized he bought a lubricant. They told him that he can't gift this and that he should return this. He first resisted and hid the receipt, but in the end they took it away. Quite recently I realized that I am not passionate about anything. Is there a way I can find other people like me who aren't passionate about anything? Edit. I think I should add that I don't have depression. I like more than one thing instead of being passionate about just one thing. Told this before, will tell again. I went to LCD's sound system on like night 3 of a 5-night run. Bought a pressed tab of E beforehand. Took half. Was bit too much for me. About 3/4 of the way through the show, I took myself to medical cause my heart rate was nearly 150. Once you're in medical they don't let you leave. So I can hear the show, but I'm missing it. I'm rolling balls and talking to everyone. Some drunk Canadian guy is escorted into medical. He needs to get home. Can't find his friend. I call him a lift. He's happy. Everyone's happy. Life's great. I'm too fucked up to drive, so they call in my friend who works at the venue to come move my car. I take a lift home. I'm super dehydrated despite all the water and Pedialyte, so I go to the hospital and get an IV. Puke. Feel great. Go home. Pass out. Wake up the next day still feeling so much love toward everything. Decide to go see night 5/5 of LCD. And like, cause I want to thank the medics and my friend, I get like some little chocolate boxes from C's. I find a ticket day of show. Buy it. Roll up to the venue, realize the arsehole never sent the ticket. Was a scam. Got my money back but my Venmo account's frozen still. So I'm like hanging out by the venue with this other dude who got scammed. He tells me to hang out by the VIP door with him cause you can hear the show pretty great. He's right. We're chillin'. Show goes on, and at some point the VIP door opens. Medics are escorting some other drunk dude to his car. I recognize the medic. He recognizes me. We talk. We catch up. He asks how I am. We talk about how great puking is. I explain to him we got scammed and are chilling out here. I give him the small chocolate box for the medic team. He goes back inside. Like a few minutes later, the medic comes back out. He tells us he got security to look the other way and lets us in the venue. Me and this dude are in shock. We walk into the venue and LCD is playing the same song I left at during the other show. We see the show. It's amazing. All of my friends during the encore, yada yada. After the show, I give my friend his chocolate box for helping out. I go home. Life's great. And that's how I went to 2 LCD sound system concerts but only saw one show. I am a gay man. When I was 12 or so I inadvertently masturbated while reading Beowulf. I had never masturbated before and I felt so guilty I cried about it night after night for a week or so. Once my mom caught me crying and asked what was wrong. I can't tell you, I said. She was worried I might have been molested so she called my dad. He came home and forced me into his car and drove me to a field in the middle of nowhere and locked the doors. "You're not going anywhere until you tell me everything," he said. I was sobbing and I knew that there was nothing I could do, so I told him what had happened. Being a Christian, he told me that I didn't need to worry about it as long as I wasn't looking at pictures of naked ladies. I tentatively told him that I was instead thinking about naked men when I masturbated. He told me when he was a teenager he wasn't sure what he was attracted to and that I would grow to be attracted to women in time. I was mortified. I did not have the kind of relationship with my dad that I would tell him such personal things. I grew to hate him for forcing me to tell him what happened. I felt like I had been violated. Fast forward to last year when I was outed by an anonymous number to my whole family. My dad said he was shocked to find out. He offered to pay for me to go to conversion therapy and I declined. I'm 24 now. Our relationship has become more and more strained in the last year. I met my current boyfriend in November of 2018. Unfortunately, my parents still say they don't want that gay stuff in their household. I haven't seen my parents since November. Yet, I have never been more powerful than I am today, despite the rejection. I did not choose to be outed, but I wouldn't change it for the world because of the place it has brought me to. I hope one day my parents are able to love their gay son, but until that day I will be confident and powerful despite them.